A human body beyond Earth does not look broken at first. It looks almost graceful. A hand drifts from a wall. A foot misses the floor because the floor no longer has the same meaning. The face may look a little fuller. The legs may look thinner. Nothing in that first image looks like a medical question. But floating is only the surface. Under it, bones are receiving almost none of the loading they use as a signal. Muscles are losing work they normally do without being noticed. Fluid is moving toward the head. The balance system is losing its old map of up and down. And beyond Earth's magnetic and atmospheric shield, cells meet particles they cannot see or feel. The central question is simple and uncomfortable. If zero gravity changes the body, and deep space adds radiation, how much gravity and protection are enough to keep a human body human over mission time? By the end of tonight, you will understand what deep space does to the human body, why low Earth orbit can only take us part of the way, and why the hardest question may be the simplest one: how much gravity is enough? If you enjoy exploring questions like this with me, subscribing to the channel helps others find them too. Sharing the video helps even more. Let's begin. An astronaut floating in a cabin looks as if the body has escaped weight. The easy picture is freedom, feet with nothing to press against, and a back no longer carrying its old vertical load. A small push from the hand can send the whole body across the room. NASA's Human Research Program uses the word microgravity for this condition. Gravity has not vanished. The body has simply lost the ordinary pattern of loading that Earth gives it all day. That missing pattern is the first medical fact in the scene. Earth usually speaks to the body through pressure. A heel meets the floor. A hip carries weight. Spine and neck hold the head above the chest. None of this feels like information because it has been there since birth. During flight, those signals fade. Skeleton receives less demand from standing. Postural muscles lose a background job. Blood vessels no longer work inside the same vertical column. Inner ear organs lose the gravity cue used for tilt. Floating is the visible surface of several systems being given a new rule. The body does not treat the new rule as an emergency at first. It adapts. That is what living tissue does. If the cabin no longer asks the legs to hold a person upright, the body begins to treat that demand as less urgent. If the spine is no longer compressed in the usual way, the daily instruction changes there as well. Fragility is not the point. Responsiveness is the point. Space changes the question, and the body starts answering. Fluid gives the next clue. On Earth, standing pulls volume toward the legs. The vessels and reflexes that manage blood pressure are used to that slope. In orbit, the slope weakens. Fluid shifts toward the head. Astronauts may show a fuller face and lighter-looking legs, but the appearance is only the outer sign. NASA Cardiovascular and Ocular Research treats headward fluid shift as a change in the pressure setting around the upper body and the eyes and the brain. A simple image helps. Imagine a river system after the land stops sloping downhill. The water has not disappeared, but the old pattern no longer holds. Body fluids are regulated in a far more complex way, yet the basic lesson is similar. Remove the usual pull, and the system finds a different distribution. That new distribution can help the body live in orbit. It can also create trouble when gravity returns and the old pressure map is suddenly needed again. The face is useful here because it is visible. A puffy face is not the disease. It is a sign that the circulation has entered a different environment. Venous return, plasma volume, and pressure regulation begin adapting around that condition. NASA's evidence reports avoid turning this into one neat pathway because several systems are involved. The face is simply the part of the experiment we can see. Balance changes in a different way. On Earth, the inner ear, vision and touch and pressure under the feet usually agree enough to make movement feel automatic. In microgravity, the otolith organs no longer receive the same gravity cue for tilt. A wall can become a root. A ceiling can become a place to brace. The eyes may say the cabin is stable while the inner ear has lost its old reference. NASA sensoromotor research treats that mismatch as operational physiology. because a confused map can affect work. Motion sickness and disorientation can appear while the brain decides which signals to trust. Then skill returns, but it is skill for a new place. Crew members learn handholds, body angles, and gentle pushes. They become fluent inside the cabin. That fluency is real and it is useful. It is also local. A body trained by months of weightless movement may still have to land and stand and work under another gravity field before it has fully recalibrated. This is why the floating body should not be judged by how calm it looks. On camera, a smile can sit above shifting fluid, a relaxed knee can hide changing muscle demand, and a graceful turn can sit above a nervous system rebuilding its map. The visible motion is beautiful, but the quieter event is more important. Earth gravity was never just background. It was a constant instruction. Deep space removes much of that instruction while asking the body to remain reliable. A spacecraft can provide air, warmth, water, and a place to sleep. It cannot casually replace a planet's mechanical message. The first minutes of floating contain the seed of the whole problem. Useful adaptation in one environment may reduce readiness for the next. The first lesson is small enough to miss. Weightlessness does not need to injure anyone in order to matter. It only has to remove a signal the body has always used. The cabin can be quiet and the movement graceful, while the body is already choosing new priorities. That is the pivot into the rest of the journey. Once the planet's background pressure is gone, the body begins saving what no longer seems necessary. The clearest record of that saving is written slowly, inside the bones. A simple way to feel the problem is to imagine standing after a long day in bed. Even before pain appears, the legs seem less certain and the room feels less ordinary. Microgravity begins with a stronger version of that lesson. NASA treats gravity fields as a human research hazard because load is information. Feet and calves use that information quietly. Veins and inner ears use it too. Bones use it over a slower clock. Once it fades, the body does not wait for permission. It edits its own settings. That is why the first floating scene matters. It is not proof that the body has escaped Earth. It is proof that Earth has stopped giving one of its oldest instructions. A leg bone on Earth is never merely waiting inside the body. It is being maintained. Every step, every stair, every quiet minute of standing gives it mechanical information. NASA's Bone Evidence Report describes bone as living tissue that remodels. Old material is removed. New material is formed. The balance between those actions depends partly on load. In microgravity and the load signal changes, and especially in the hip and spine and pelvis and legs, calcium can move as bone changes, but that is not the whole story. The stronger picture is maintenance under missing demand. Bone is alive. It is rebuilt by cells that remove old material and cells that lay down new material. When the normal weight-bearing work is reduced for months, that balance can shift. The skeleton begins to read absence as an instruction. That makes bone loss one of the clearest examples of space changing the body without attacking it. No villain enters the bloodstream. No single switch flips. The body adapts to the demand placed on it, and the demand is wrong for a creature built under Earth gravity. The quietness is part of the danger. A maintenance signal can disappear without pain. The loss is not expected to be identical everywhere. Weight-bearing regions carry the clearest Earth job, so the hip, pelvis and spine and heel draw close attention. Long-duration ISS studies and bed rest analogues show why location matters. A surface mission needs a person who can land and stand and carry tools and recover from a stumble with enough skeletal margin left. Countermeasures can reduce the loss. They matter deeply. Exercise hardware, nutrition and monitoring are not decorative. They are part of keeping the skeleton inside an operating range, but they do not make a spacecraft into Earth. A resistive machine can ask bone to work for a scheduled period. Earth gravity asks all day, through ordinary living. That difference is why NASA treats skeletal health as a continuing risk area rather than a solved inconvenience. Individual responses also differ. Duration, prior health, genetics and exercise quality and nutrition and mission workload and recovery all shape the result. A calm answer has to preserve that boundary. Space does not hand every skeleton the same medical chart. It changes the condition every skeleton depends on. Then researchers measure how each body answers. Coming home does not instantly close the file. Gravity returns in a moment. Bone recovers on a slower clock. Post-flight skeletal recovery studies show that some measures can take time, and not every site necessarily returns at the same pace. That matters for repeated missions, long missions, and any destination where the crew cannot simply rest under Earth medical support after arrival. A useful image is a maintenance radio turned back on after months of weak messages. The crew hears traffic again, repair resumes, but the bridge is not rebuilt overnight. In the body, the rebuilding signal can return faster than the tissue can answer it. The result may be partial recovery, delayed recovery, or different recovery across different bones and measures. This is not a reason to pretend deep space makes the skeleton hopeless. It is a reason to treat the skeleton as evidence. Bone reveals a central rule. Biology saves energy and material according to demand. Remove a planet's demand, and the body begins to economize. Muscle hears the same message even faster. Bone also reveals why the body cannot be protected by willpower. No astronaut can decide a femur should keep the same mineral architecture while the mechanical environment is telling it something else. The skeleton is regulated through cells that build and cells that resorb, through hormones, nutrition and exercise, and inflammation and load. NASA's Bone Evidence Report treats spaceflight bone change as a remodeling problem because the tissue is alive enough to obey the environment. The weight-bearing map matters because a landing is not performed by an average skeleton. The hip must take load, the spine must brace, the feet must meet the ground through a suit and a surface that may not be forgiving. NASA's Bone Evidence Report keeps those regions separate because the mission will use them separately. There is also a chemical side to the mechanical story. Bone loss can alter calcium handling and raise concerns such as kidney stone risk, depending on diet, hydration and medication and individual response. That does not turn the story into a simple mineral leak. It shows that the skeleton is connected to the rest of physiology. When one storage and maintenance system shifts and the blood and kidneys and exercise plan and recovery plan all become part of the same risk, the slow pace can make bone easy to underestimate. A person may not feel a measurable change while it is happening. The danger arrives as margin quietly narrows. Deep missions are built from margins. Enough strength for a repair, enough skeletal reserve for a fall, enough recovery for the next task. Bone loss removes margin without announcing itself. That is why the skeleton becomes one of the clearest measures of how much of Earth the body still needs. The evidence boundary is also worth keeping clear. ISS studies offer the strongest long-duration human record for microgravity, but they do not supply the exact deep space surface answer. Bed rest studies can help isolate unloading and recovery. They cannot become lunar or Martian life. Post-flight recovery can be measured on Earth, but a distant crew may need to operate before Earth-like recovery is available. Each source helps, and each source has an edge. This edge is why bone becomes a mission design question. If a crew arrives at a surface after months of transit, the skeleton has to meet a new load environment with whatever reserve remains. A fall, a heavy tool, a suit constraint, or a rough surface can turn small losses into real risk. It is not enough to ask whether bone density changed in a table. The mission asks whether the person can safely do the work that the destination requires. The skeleton also links back to the unresolved partial gravity threshold. If lunar gravity supplies some load, is it enough to maintain key regions over months? If Mars gravity supplies more, is that enough for bone but not for every system? Current evidence cannot close that line. The bones keep asking the central question in their own slow language. How much load is enough to keep maintenance honest? Bone research also shows why long-form evidence matters. A short exposure can reveal direction, but a slow tissue needs time to reveal cost. The longer the missing load continues, the more recovery and countermeasure questions matter. A future surface stay would test whether partial gravity restores enough signal, not whether bone can be discussed in isolation. The skeleton keeps the argument honest because it answers slowly and leaves records in measurable structure. The skeletal risk is quiet because bone does not announce every lost instruction. It records the missing work in structure, mineral balance, and recovery time. That makes it less like a sudden injury and more like a maintenance debt that grows while the crew is busy doing everything else. A small fracture risk can sound remote until the mission is imagined at human scale. A crew member may step down from a ladder while tired, twist inside a suit, or brace against a hatch that resists closing on Earth. Extra medical help and rest can absorb many mistakes. Far from Earth, the same event has to be absorbed by the crew and the habitat and the body that arrived with months of unloading behind it. For a deep mission, that debt matters at the moment gravity returns in a new form. The body may have to stand, climb, brace, or fall before the skeleton has fully rebuilt its margin. Muscle answers the same missing demand problem sooner. This is why a skeleton can become mission evidence long before anyone breaks a bone. A scan after flight is not only a medical record, it is a record of the mechanical world the body has been living in. NASA bone evidence reports treat the question in terms of loading, remodeling, nutrition, exercise, duration, and recovery. Those words sound clinical until they are put back into a person. A pelvis that carried every step on Earth has spent months with no normal step to answer. A spine that always worked under weight has been asked to maintain itself without the usual proof of need. The loss is not dramatic, it is accounting. On Earth, standing still is already work. Calves, quadriceps, and back muscles, and many smaller postural muscles keep the body arranged against gravity with no ceremony. A person does not have to think about it. The demand is built into the day, in microgravity. Much of that hidden demand vanishes. NASA's muscle evidence report frames muscle atrophy as a loading and use problem, not a moral failure or a lack of discipline. The plain rule is simple: muscle keeps itself by being used. If the orders stop arriving, the body stops paying full upkeep. In a spacecraft, legs no longer carry every walk across a room, back muscles no longer hold the same vertical posture. Even movement through a cabin can be done with small pushes from the hands. The tissue responds to the economy it is living in. That is why the floating image can be misleading. It looks effortless because it is. The effort the body used to spend all day is missing. Space removes work before it removes strength, and the loss begins as a rational adaptation to an irrational environment. The exercise machines on the ISS are therefore not ordinary gym equipment with better straps. They are environmental substitutes. The advanced resistive exercise device, cycle ergometer, and treadmill systems give the body reasons to keep tissue that the cabin no longer asks for. NASA and ISS countermeasure studies treat these devices as essential because they compress a planet's background demand into scheduled sessions. That is an extraordinary engineering achievement, but it should not be mistaken for a cure. Earth gravity is not one workout. It is a continuous field that shapes posture, movement and loading and blood distribution and balance and habit. A machine can imitate parts of that demand. It cannot reproduce the whole world. The machine matters because the planet is missing. This distinction protects the science from two weak stories. One says exercise solves space physiology. The other says countermeasures are useless. Both are wrong. Exercise helps because the body listens to demand. It remains partial because the demand is artificial, scheduled, and incomplete. The mission test is not a chart in isolation, it is function. After a long transit, a crew may need to land, stand, and inspect a vehicle, and carry equipment and repair a seal and respond to a warning or move through a habitat before a long recovery period is available. NASA exploration risk framing treats functional performance as a central concern because strength and endurance and balance and circulation meet during real work. A Mars landing does not wait until the body has finished adapting back toward gravity. The same person who spent months in transit may have to operate in partial gravity almost immediately. That makes muscle loss a surface operation question, not only a health monitoring question. The issue is whether the body can do the job when the environment changes again. There is no need for hero mythology here. The body is not weak because astronauts are weak. It is adaptive because humans are alive. Space changes the terms of work, and muscle follows those terms. Circulation follows too. Muscle loss also carries a timing problem. Muscle can change faster than bone, and loss of endurance can show up in ordinary tasks before a person thinks of injury. In space, a crew member may still be able to perform planned exercise while losing some of the background conditioning that Earth provides automatically. NASA's muscle risk work connects mass and strength and endurance and performance because missions are not protected by appearance. They are protected by what the body can do when demands stack together. The anti-gravity muscles deserve special attention because they are quiet workers on Earth. Calves help push blood upward and support standing. Back muscles keep posture. Hip and thigh muscles make walking, crouching, climbing, and lifting feel normal. Remove the constant reason for those muscles to fire, and the body becomes efficient in a way a mission may not want. It saves tissue where the environment no longer demands it. Countermeasure time is therefore precious. A crew cannot exercise endlessly because the same day also contains maintenance, science operations and communication and sleep and meals and medical checks and emergencies and fatigue. The problem is not only whether a machine can create enough load, it is whether a human mission can protect enough time and adherence for the machine to matter. That links muscle directly back to sleep and schedule and mood and workload and design. When gravity returns, muscle is asked for integrated work. It is not enough for one measurement to look acceptable. The body must rise, stabilize, and move and react and recover. It must do so with circulation and balance that have also adapted. This is why the muscle story cannot stay in the gym. Muscle is mission readiness written in tissue. There is a hidden generosity in Earth gravity. It gives exercise to the body even when no one has planned a workout. Walking to water, standing during a conversation, lifting a bag, and bracing against a stumble and climbing a step, and even sitting upright all place small demands on muscle. Space removes many of those small gifts. The loss is not one dramatic event. It is the disappearance of thousands of ordinary contractions. A spacecraft must then make demand deliberately. Straps hold the body to a treadmill. Resistance devices create load where a barbell would otherwise float away. Schedules reserve time for training because the day itself no longer provides enough. That deliberate design is impressive, but it also shows how expensive Earth was to replace. A planet gave work for free. A mission has to budget it. This is why muscle, like bone, belongs in the final partial gravity question. If Mars gravity gives legs a real job again, how much job is it? If lunar gravity gives less, does scheduled exercise cover the difference? If a transit is spent in microgravity before a surface stay, how much function is lost before partial gravity can help? The answer is not stored in one muscle measurement. It lives in the combination of tissue and time and gravity and mission work. Muscle is also tied to confidence. A crew member who feels capable after a workout may still have less reserve for an unplanned task later. Strength, endurance, coordination, and fatigue do not appear separately during a real emergency. They arrive as one body. This is why functional task testing matters alongside muscle size or power. Deep space does not ask whether a calf muscle looks normal. It asks whether the whole person can move when the mission becomes difficult. The muscle story is blunt, but not hopeless. A spacecraft can create work on purpose, and the body will answer some of that work. The issue is that scheduled loading has to replace thousands of ordinary moments that Earth used to provide for free. There is also a difference between gym strength and useful strength. A treadmill session can load the legs, but a surface task may ask for awkward bracing, slow climbing and crouching and lifting and attention at the same time. Muscle has to support work while the crew is thinking about tools and alarms. That is why performance matters more than appearance. So muscle becomes a clock inside the mission. Every day without normal resistance is a day when strength has to be deliberately defended. The next system shows the same lesson in motion, because the heart also has to relearn what gravity used to ask of it. The same logic reaches into small habits that rarely feel like exercise. Rising from a chair uses thigh and hip muscles. Bracing during a stumble uses the trunk. Holding the head steady uses the back and neck. On Earth, these actions arrive all day without a calendar reminder. In orbit, they become optional or vanish into handholds and gentle pushes. The NASA muscle risk work matters because it asks how much of that lost background demand can be replaced on purpose. A scheduled session can be hard and valuable. It still has to stand in for thousands of tiny jobs that a planet normally assigns for free. The heart works inside a gravity map. On Earth, blood must move through a vertical body. Pressure changes from head to foot. Blood vessels constrict and relax. Reflexes help keep blood reaching the brain when a person stands. In microgravity, that vertical map flattens. NASA's cardiovascular evidence report treats the change as a system recalibration involving fluid distribution and plasma volume and vascular tone and cardiac loading. It would be too simple to say the heart merely becomes weak. The better picture is a pump network after the hills have been removed. The system finds a new normal because the old demands are no longer present. Fluid has shifted upward, the legs are less loaded, the pressure gradient is different. Over time, the body may adjust blood volume and regulation around the environment it actually has. That adaptation can help life in orbit. It can also become a liability later. A body that has learned one pressure world may not immediately serve another. The heart is not failing, it is learning the wrong planet. Standing up is a test of circulation so ordinary that it usually goes unnoticed. Blood would pool downward if reflexes did not respond. Vessels tighten, heart rate adjusts. The brain continues receiving enough blood. After microgravity, that reflex system may be out of practice or tuned differently. The term orthostatic intolerance names difficulty maintaining blood pressure and function when upright. Post-flight observations and NASA cardiovascular research make this more than a dizziness note. A person can feel faint or unstable after return. Severity varies, and not every astronaut experiences the same problem. The boundary matters. The point is not that standing becomes impossible. The point is that standing under gravity becomes a physiological event again. Imagine a thermostat set for a house that has moved climates. It still works, but the old setting no longer matches the room. Circulation after microgravity can face that kind of mismatch. Gravity can feel new to a body that remembers it. For Earth return, medical teams can meet the crew. For a deep space destination, the situation is less forgiving. A crew landing far from Earth may have to manage the vehicle and habitat and suits and tools and communication delays and terrain, while the body is still recalibrating. NASA exploration planning treats landing day function as an integrated risk because circulation and strength and balance arrive together. This does not require melodrama. A small impairment can matter if it appears at the wrong moment. Dizziness during an ordinary day is one kind of problem. Dizziness while leaving a spacecraft or responding to a warning is another. Distance turns physiology into operations. The cardiovascular story therefore deepens the central question. The body is not simply losing capacity, it is adapting to an environment that will not be the environment at arrival. Standing requires blood pressure. It also requires a body that knows which way is up. Cardiovascular adaptation is especially subtle because the heart keeps beating. A working pulse can hide a changed rule set. In microgravity, central blood volume, plasma volume, and vessel behavior and reflex control may shift because the old vertical challenge has faded. NASA's cardiovascular evidence work follows these details because the question is not whether the heart stops working. The question is how it is tuned and what happens when the tuning is tested again. On Earth, the body practices standing every day, getting out of bed, walking to a door and bending down and climbing stairs and standing still all rehearse pressure control. Space removes much of that rehearsal. Exercise can help. Fluid loading can help before return, and suits and procedures can help, but the baseline training environment is gone. The reflexes that once responded to gravity now spend months in a place where gravity is not asking the same thing. The return problem is also a crew autonomy problem. Near Earth, teams can plan reconditioning and medical support around landing. A Mars-class arrival may offer no such cushion. Even if the surface has partial gravity instead of Earth gravity, the body must respond to a new pressure map while the mission is becoming more physically demanding. Standing and walking and unloading and checking systems and dealing with unexpected faults all draw from the same cardiovascular reserve. This makes the phrase orthostatic intolerance more human than it first sounds. It is the possibility that the brain does not get blood pressure support quickly enough when the body is upright. That can mean lightheadedness, weakness, instability, or reduced performance. In a living room, it is unpleasant. On a distant surface, it can shape the first hours of survival work. The heart has learnt space. The mission needs it to remember gravity. The cardiovascular system also shows why the body is not a collection of separate risks. Fluid shift in the opening connects to plasma volume. Plasma volume connects to blood pressure. Blood pressure connects to standing. Standing connects to balance, muscle, fatigue, and surface work. A single adaptation can travel through the body like a change in one pipe, altering a whole building's plumbing. NASA researchers study countermeasures such as fluid loading, compression garments, exercise and reconditioning because they can help the system meet gravity again. But the existence of countermeasures should not be confused with the disappearance of risk. A countermeasure is a way of buying back margin. It works only within the realities of duration and adherence, and individual response and mission context. Partial gravity makes the question stranger. A body landing on Mars may not face Earth gravity, but it will face enough gravity for standing and walking to matter. The cardiovascular system must support the brain and working muscles in that new field. Too little gravity in transit can detune the system. Too much demand on arrival can expose the detuning. The heart's story is the story of a pump that has to serve more than one world. The heart story also warns against simple language about weakness. A smaller demand can produce a smaller response without the organ being broken. A changed pressure map can produce a changed control strategy without failure. The danger is context. If the adapted system is placed in a new gravity field, the old strategy may be late. Deep space risk often lives in that delay between a body that has adapted and an environment that has changed again. The cardiovascular system is not failing when it adapts to flight. It is finding a workable pattern for a world without the old vertical column of pressure. The trouble begins when that pattern meets a flaw again. The first surface day would make this visible in ordinary acts. Standing after a seat restraint, turning the head inside a helmet, carrying a tool case, or climbing through a hatch can all ask the circulation to stabilize pressure quickly. If the body has spent months without a vertical column, that stabilization is not just a background reflex, it becomes part of mission readiness. A crew does not only need a heart that works in transit, it needs a circulation that can handle a landing day, a surface walk, and the first urgent task after arrival. Balance and movement add their own layer, because standing is never only a matter of blood pressure. A person can feel this hidden system on Earth by standing up too quickly. For a second, the body has to move blood against gravity and protect the brain from a pressure drop. Usually the correction is so fast that it disappears from awareness. After long microgravity exposure, that reflex has been living in a place where the old vertical problem is weaker. NASA cardiovascular evidence keeps returning to this ordinary act because it is simple and unforgiving. Upright posture asks whether blood volume, vessels, heart filling, and nerve signals can answer together. If they lag, standing becomes work instead of background. Balance begins with agreement. Eyes, feet, Muscles and joints and the inner ear usually tell the brain-compatible stories. The otolith organs inside the vestibular system help sense gravity and tilt in microgravity. That input changes. NASA's Sensoromotor Evidence Report describes the resulting adaptation as a real mission issue because movement and orientation and task performance all depend on those signals. The easy picture is a dizzy astronaut, but the better picture is a nervous system trying to choose a map. Early in flight, the old cues disagree. Nausea and awkward movement can appear while the brain learns which signals deserve trust. After practice, the cabin begins to make sense again. That learning is not damaged by itself, it is skill. Crew members become fluent in a space where walls and ceilings are no longer fixed categories. The body has to negotiate with its own instruments, and for a while the negotiation is the work. Adaptation in orbit is one of the body's great strengths. A person can learn to move through weightlessness with small pushes, turns, and grips. Vision becomes more important in some tasks. Touch and habit fill gaps left by gravity. The body gets better at space by becoming less tuned to Earth. That sentence carries the cost. A movement strategy tuned for a weightless cabin may not be ready for a surface. Neural control shifts toward the environment it is living in. It is like changing the controls on a machine, becoming fluent, and then being handed the old controls at a critical moment. The success in one setting can create a delay in another. This is why sensorimotor research matters for Mars-class missions. The goal is not to laugh at strange motion. The goal is to know how fast a crew can function when the rules change. Adaptation is success with a cost attached. A new gravity field is not simply Earth turned down. Lunar gravity, Martian gravity, and Earth gravity each change force and timing and balance and gait and fall risk in different ways. Apollo surface experience gives real hints, but Apollo stays were short and came after comparatively brief flights. They cannot answer what happens after months of transit and deconditioning. A suited crew member stepping onto partial gravity after a long journey is asking the body to learn another grammar. The boots must find load, the eyes must judge distance through a helmet, the inner ear must interpret tilt again while the suit changes every motion. The terrain will not wait for the nervous system to finish sorting those signals. That makes orientation a body limit problem, not a comfort problem. The body keeps arriving before it is finished adapting. The same headward shift and pressure changes that help confuse orientation may also leave traces in the eyes. Sensorimotor change also shows how intelligent the body can be. The brain solves the cabin rather than simply enduring it. A light push from a wall can replace walking. Vision can become more trusted than the missing tilt cue. Handrails and body position become part of movement. Those solutions are useful because they fit the place where they were learned. Every learned solution has an address. A movement pattern that works inside a weightless module may not work on a dusty slope in a suit after months of transit. NASA sensorimotor research pays attention to transitions for that reason. Risk often rises when the rule changes. Launch changes it, orbit changes it, docking changes it. Landing and first surface work change it again. The Moon and Mars complicate the map because partial gravity changes more than weight. It changes the arc of a step, the force of a fall, the timing of a reach and the feel of a tool, and the way a suited body responds to small mistakes. A person may overpush and underbrake and misjudge momentum or need new gait strategies. Apollo footage makes this visible, but Apollo duration cannot answer what happens after long deconditioning. The sensory motor system becomes a safety system. It keeps the head from striking a wall during a stumble and helps the hands find a rail during repair. When it is working well, movement feels automatic. When it is disrupted, even simple actions can take attention the crew may need elsewhere. The brain's adaptation can also affect confidence. Movement feels safe when the rules are familiar. In a new gravity field, confidence may arrive before accuracy or after it. A crew member may know intellectually that a step will land differently, while the body still uses timing learned somewhere else. That gap between knowledge and automatic control is where training and mission design become protective. NASA exploration planning has to account for that gap with procedures, suited mobility testing, vehicle egress design, and handholds and terrain planning and timelines and recovery expectations. A landing site is not only a geological target, it is also a place where adapted bodies must move. The safest path may be the one that gives the nervous system time to update before the hardest tasks begin. Apollo records show that humans can learn partial gravity movement quickly. They also show slips, falls, and improvised gaits. Those moments are useful evidence. Not comedy, they show how the body explores a new set of forces. After a much longer transit, exploration would begin from a different physiological baseline. A returning body would not be naive. Recent adaptation would point it toward the wrong past. Training can reduce this risk, but training must be specific enough to the forces involved. Practicing procedures in one gravity field cannot fully reproduce another. Virtual reality can help with vision and task order. Neutral buoyancy pools can help with suits and tools. Parabolic flight can help with brief altered gravity. None of these fully replaces months of transit followed by real partial gravity. The nervous system therefore remains one of the systems future missions must measure in place. The sensor-motor system shows how quickly skill depends on context. A person can become excellent at moving through a spacecraft and still be partly unprepared for a ladder, a hatch, or a dusty slope under partial gravity. The nervous system also has to protect confidence. A person who is unsure of a step moves differently. They may slow down, grip harder, or spend attention on balance instead of the task. That change is not weakness. It is the body buying safety while it rebuilds prediction. On a distant surface, that safety purchase can cost time and oxygen. That does not make adaptation a mistake. It makes adaptation conditional. The brain builds the best map for the place it is in. Deep missions become difficult because the body must keep changing maps without losing the ability to work. There is a quiet cruelty in adaptation here. The brain is doing exactly what it should do. It is learning the cabin. It learns that a wall can be a floor, a push can replace a step. Vision may become more useful than the inner ear for orientation. Those lessons help a crew move well in orbit. They are also lessons that have to be revised when gravity returns. NASA sensor-motor concern is not that the body refuses to learn. Learning one physical grammar can make the next grammar harder to speak. A landing surface does not give much rehearsal time. The back of the eye can become a record of spaceflight. Astronaut eye exams have shown findings grouped under spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS. NASA's ocular evidence work and review literature discuss optic disc edema, globe flattening, and choroidal or retinal changes and shifts in visual acuity. The eye, and in this story, is not a small camera sealed away from the rest of the body. It is part of a fluid and pressure environment. A familiar camera image helps at first, then fails. A camera in a hard metal box can be focused as a separate device. An eye is living tissue mounted inside a skull, connected to blood flow and cerebrospinal fluid and venous drainage and pressure relationships. Change the way fluid sits around the head and the eye may change too. The eye can show what floating hides. The boundary is important. SANS is real, but it is not universal in one simple form, and it is not fully explained by one neat cause. It is a warning layer where observed medical change meets unsettled mechanism. Scientists can see effects before they fully know the path. SANS review literature discusses several candidates: headward fluid shift, venous pressure, cerebrospinal fluid dynamics and ocular biomechanics and carbon dioxide, and individual anatomy and mission duration and other interacting factors. NASA does not treat the mechanism as closed. That uncertainty is not weakness, it is precision. A footprint can be clear even when the exact step is debated. The eye findings point to altered conditions around the head and eye-brain system, but several routes may lead there. If one countermeasure targets only one route, and the real cause is a combination, the protection may be incomplete. Mechanism matters because design follows mechanism. The plain landing is this. The uncertainty is not whether eyes matter, it is why they change, how to predict who is most at risk, and which countermeasures truly protect vision over deep mission durations. Vision becomes more consequential with distance. Near Earth, a medical team can advise quickly, supplies can be sent more plausibly, and return is closer. Far from Earth, eyes are operational hardware carried inside the skull. A crew member needs vision for screens and seals and tools and medical checks and surface terrain and docking queues and repair work. A small visual change may be manageable in one context and dangerous in another. That does not mean panic. It means dose, duration, individual response, mission design, and autonomy all matter. NASA's Mars risk framing treats health problems differently when communication is delayed and evacuation is not available. The eye therefore joins the same pattern as bone, muscle, circulation, and balance. Space does not only make the body uncomfortable, it changes the physical conditions under which body systems keep themselves reliable. Sleep reveals another condition, time. SANS is important because it refuses to stay inside one category. It is an eye finding, but the suspected contributors reach through fluid distribution, venous drainage, and cerebrospinal fluid and tissue mechanics and cabin environment and individual anatomy. That makes it a good example of why body systems cannot be treated as sealed boxes. The eye is small, but it is embedded in the head, and the head is living in a changed pressure world. The operational side is equally plain. Clear vision is needed for reading displays, inspecting seals, handling medication, and navigating uneven ground, and watching another crew member and recognizing small changes in equipment. A mission far from Earth cannot assume that every medical concern stays minor because a specialist can be called quickly. Communication delay and limited supplies turn body reliability into mission design. The unsettled mechanism should not be used to weaken the evidence. Many scientific problems begin with a clear observation and several possible pathways. The careful work is to separate what has been seen from what remains inferred. NASA's ocular risk work and review literature do that by tracking findings, hypotheses, individual differences, and countermeasure ideas without pretending one tidy cause has already won. That makes the eyes a warning against oversimplification. If a simple pressure story were enough, the solution path would be easier. If the eye were isolated, the finding would be smaller. Instead, SANS sits at the meeting point of fluid shift and tissue response, and mission duration and uncertainty. It reminds the whole story that a body in space is not a collection of parts. It is a set of pressures and signals and structures changing together. The eyes also carry a communication problem. A crew member can describe blurry vision, but the deeper structural findings require examination, imaging, and interpretation. In low Earth orbit, data can move quickly and experts can help interpret it. Farther away, crews need more autonomy. Medical tools and training and onboard decision support and conservative mission rules become part of protecting eyesight. The relationship between SANS and mission duration remains one of the reasons long missions require caution. Some findings have been associated more with longer exposure, but individual variation matters. It would be wrong to say every crew member will develop the same changes. It would also be wrong to treat vision as a small inconvenience because not everyone is affected. Risk is managed by caring about the cases that could matter most. SANS is therefore a model of bounded seriousness. The observed findings are serious enough to shape research priorities. The mechanism is unsettled enough to prevent simple claims. The operational consequences are clear enough to keep the eyes inside the main body limit story. Space changes pressure and fluid in ways that can reach one of the most delicate instruments a crew carries. There is a further reason SANS feels different from ordinary deconditioning. A crew member can exercise muscle and load bone, but the eye-brain pressure environment is harder to replace with a simple daily habit. Countermeasures may involve fluid shifts, pressure garments, and lower body negative pressure and medication ideas or habitat factors. Yet the right path depends on the mechanism. Until the path is clearer, eyesight remains one of the places where deep space confidence has to stay modest. The eye matters because it gives researchers a visible surface where deeper pressure relationships may leave a mark. A changed optic disc or a flattened globe is not just an eye finding. It is evidence that the headward shift can reach delicate anatomy. Vision is also a work system. Reading a checklist, inspecting a seal, seeing dust on a connector, and judging a distant handhold all depend on clear enough sight. Even small visual changes can matter when the crew cannot simply send someone to a clinic. That is why NASA treats ocular findings as mission evidence rather than only medical curiosity. The careful answer stays open. SANS is real enough to design around and unsettled enough that no single cause should be treated as final. A mission has to protect vision while the mechanism is still being narrowed. SANS also changes the tone of the whole body story because it is visible to medicine. Bone loss can be slow and silent. Muscle loss can be tested by strength. The eye lets researchers photograph a structure that may have been reshaped by the altered fluid world around the head. NASA ocular evidence and review literature discuss optic disc swelling, flattening of the globe, choroidal changes, and vision findings with careful language. The care matters. A clear observation is not the same as a settled cause. The important point is narrower and stronger. Spaceflight can leave measurable marks in a system that crews depend on every hour. A spacecraft has to make its own day. Light comes from panels and windows. Work is scheduled by mission clocks. Noise, confinement, workload, and stress and orbital timing can all press on the body clock. NASA's Human Body in Space overview and sleep and behavioral health evidence work treat circadian disruption as a physiological risk, not merely a complaint about comfort. The body keeps time through light, darkness, meals and movement and hormones and temperature and routine. On Earth, those cues are reinforced by dawn and night even when modern life disrupts them. In space, and the cues may become artificial and rapid or fragile. The clock still ticks, but it is less sure what room it is in. That matters because timing reaches far beyond sleep itself. A steady body clock supports alertness, hormone rhythm, immune control, and the willingness to keep doing exercise when no one feels like doing it. Time becomes part of the environment. Fatigue changes the mission by making every other protective behavior more expensive. A tired person can still work, but attention narrows, decisions slow, frustration rises. Complex tasks ask for more effort. In a spacecraft, the task may involve life support and navigation and medical monitoring and exercise or repair. NASA's behavioral health and performance work connects sleep with operational reliability for that reason. Psychology belongs in the physiology story here, but not as vague isolation drama. Sleep loss and stress can feed back into the body's maintenance work. A poor night can make exercise harder. A tired crew member may delay a check that would have caught a problem early. Fatigue narrows the margin quietly. Exhaustion is not separate from physiology. It is one of the ways physiology loses discipline. Countermeasures for timing can look quiet. Lighting design can create an artificial day. Protected rest can keep work from swallowing recovery. Noise control can make sleep less fragile. NASA and ISS lighting work shows why routine is medical infrastructure rather than comfort decoration. The boundary remains firm. Good lighting does not solve radiation. A better schedule does not rebuild bone by itself. But a fragile routine can weaken every other defense. Medicine works better when people can actually follow it. In deep space, that means the habitat, schedule, and crew procedures become part of the treatment plan. The body needs a clock as much as a cabin. When sleep and stress shift, immune regulation becomes part of the same story. Sleep also protects judgment. A spacecraft is full of small tasks where accuracy matters. Closing a hatch, reading a sensor, checking a valve, or following a medical procedure can all become harder when fatigue dulls attention. The error does not need to be dramatic to matter. The body clock is not a decorative rhythm placed on top of real biology. It helps organize hormone release, temperature, alertness and digestion, and immune timing and recovery. When light exposure and workload and stress and noise and schedule pressure shift, that organization can weaken. The result may appear as poor sleep, but the deeper effect is a body doing maintenance with a less stable timetable. Deep space missions make routine harder because the environment is small and unforgiving. Exercise must happen even when the day is crowded. Medical checks must happen even when fatigue is high. Sleep must be protected even when operations become urgent. The schedule becomes a kind of medical device, and bad design can make good intentions fail. This is why sleep belongs in a documentary about the body rather than in a side story about mood. It touches the ability to follow countermeasures, regulate stress, respond to infection, maintain attention, and recover. A crew does not carry a separate mind and body into deep space. It carries one organism whose clock helps hold the rest together. The timing problem grows sharper beyond Earth because communication delays reduce real-time support. A tired crew near Earth can still rely on fast consultation and a large support network. A tired crew far away must solve more locally. That means fatigue is not merely a private discomfort. It changes the quality of autonomy. The more distant the mission, the more the body clock becomes part of command and control. Light is one of the quiet tools. Proper wavelength, brightness, timing and darkness can help align circadian rhythm. The design of a habitat can either support that rhythm or fight it. The same is true of noise and privacy and workload peaks and emergency drills. A deep space vehicle is not just a container for people. It is an artificial environment that must teach biology when to be awake and when to recover and when to repair. The strongest way to keep this topic from drifting into generic isolation is to follow the consequences. Poor sleep can reduce exercise adherence, increase mistakes, alter stress hormones, weaken immune regulation, and slow recovery. Those are physical mission effects. The body does not draw a clean line between a bad night and a weaker countermeasure day. A healthy schedule is also a countermeasure against cascading errors. If sleep weakens, exercise may slip. If exercise slips, muscle and cardiovascular risk can rise. If fatigue rises, and food choices and monitoring and teamwork can suffer. If stress rises, immune regulation may shift. None of those links requires drama. They are ordinary human links made more consequential by distance. Protecting sleep is one way of protecting the whole countermeasure system. Sleep turns the mission from hardware into daily biology. A tired body does not repair, decide, train, or regulate itself with the same margin. In deep space, those small losses can arrive exactly when the crew needs patience and accuracy. A deep mission would make sleep a shared resource. One person's poor night can affect the next day's maintenance, exercise discipline, medical observations, and patience with small problems. The point is not that crews cannot tolerate fatigue, they can. The point is that fatigue spends margin the mission may need later. The solution is not simply to tell people to rest. Light, workload, noise, timing, and stress all have to be managed as part of the medical system. The immune system shows why that daily management matters. A body clock is easy to underestimate because it does not look like hardware. There is no single tank to inspect. Yet timing affects when hormones rise, when attention is sharp, when appetite makes sense, and when repair systems do their work. NASA sleep and behavioral health evidence treats timing as operational because fatigue turns every other countermeasure into a harder choice. Exercise is harder when the body is exhausted. Good judgment is harder when rest has been poor. Medical monitoring is harder when the schedule is unstable. Deep space does not need sleep to be dramatic. It only needs sleep to be biology. A blood sample from a crew member in a sealed habitat can tell a quieter story than a dramatic illness. NASA immune evidence reports and spaceflight immune reviews describe altered immune signaling during missions. The immune system is not a wall that is either up or down. It is a conversation among cells, chemical signals, threat response, repair, and restraint. Spaceflight can change the tone of that conversation. Stress, disrupted sleep, radiation exposure, and altered microbiome conditions, and enclosed air and surfaces and workload, and changed routine may all matter. The careful phrase is immune dysregulation. It does not mean every astronaut becomes severely immunocompromised. It means regulation can shift in ways researchers can measure and must understand. That boundary protects the science. The interesting claim is not horror, it is dependence. The body does not defend itself in isolation. Immune function lives inside the same mission environment as bone, muscle, sleep, and radiation. Latent viruses make the point more concrete. Some viruses can remain quietly inside the body after earlier infection, especially members of the herpes virus family. They are not gone, they are kept in check. Astronaut studies have found signals of latent virus reactivation or shedding associated with spaceflight stresses. NASA immune risk materials treat this as evidence that immune regulation can change under mission conditions. The image should stay calm, a locked room where the latch loosens under vibration. Reactivation is not the same as guaranteed dangerous disease. It can be a biomarker of stress on regulation, and in some cases it may carry health or operational consequences. Far from Earth, even moderate medical issues matter because options are narrower. The old passengers come with the body. Deep space does not begin with a sterile machine and a separate crew. It begins with living people carrying their histories into a new environment. Closed habitats make small shifts larger. A deep space crew shares air, surfaces, microbes and schedules and stress and food systems and hygiene constraints and medical resources. NASA's RIDGE hazard framework includes hostile and closed environments as part of human exploration risk. In that setting, immunity is connected to logistics. A small immune problem has a different weight when supplies are finite and communication is delayed. Slow wound healing or an irritated patch of skin may seem minor on Earth. In a closed habitat, the same problem can consume time, attention, and medical margin. So far, the body has been shown losing ordinary gravity, load has faded, pressure has shifted, and direction has become negotiable, and timing has become managed, and immunity has shown its sensitivity. Deep space then adds an invisible second environment. Immune findings are easy to overstate because the language sounds alarming. Dysregulation, reactivation, inflammation, and altered signaling can be turned into a simple claim that space ruins immunity. The evidence does not need that exaggeration. The more precise point is stronger. Spaceflight conditions can shift immune behavior, and deep missions reduce the tolerance for small shifts because medical support is distant. Stress biology matters here because stress is not only a feeling. Workload, sleep loss, radiation and confinement, and altered microbial exposure and exercise burden and uncertainty can all influence immune regulation. NASA immune risk materials and astronaut studies look for biomarkers because they are clues about how the body is managing that total environment. A changed marker is not always illness, but it can show a system under different control. Latent virus reactivation makes the hidden nature of the problem visible. A virus that has remained quiet for years may begin shedding when immune surveillance changes. That does not mean catastrophe. It does mean old biological history is part of the mission payload. The crew carries past infections, genetic differences, stress responses, and allergies and skin conditions and repair capacity, along with tools and food. Closed habitats add consequence because the environment is shared. Air, surfaces, microbes, and sleep schedules and stress and hygiene form a small loop on Earth. A small health problem can be buffered by clinics and replacements and rest and supplies far away. The same problem can affect workload and morale and contamination control and care decisions. Immunity under mission stress is therefore not a scare story. It is another place where distance changes the meaning of ordinary physiology. The immune system also has to make judgments under uncertainty. It has to respond without overshooting and repair without unnecessary inflammation. Spaceflight stressors can shift that balance, and the closed habitat can make small consequences easier to notice. A small medical issue is still small, but the mission around it is not. Radiation adds another layer without becoming the whole explanation. Ionizing radiation can affect cells and tissues, but immune changes in spaceflight are not reducible to radiation alone. Sleep, stress and workload, and altered microbial exposure and nutrition and confinement can all contribute. This is why NASA's integrated risk approach matters. The body experiences a mission and not a single variable. The careful language is also the humane language. It avoids turning astronauts into doomed patients or superhuman exceptions. They are healthy, selected, trained people placed in an environment that tests regulation. Their bodies respond with measurable changes. Those changes may be manageable, but deep space gives less room for surprise. The immune system becomes another margin that has to be watched. This is also where the closed environment becomes more than architecture. Filters, surfaces, cleaning routines, and humidity and food systems and waste handling and crew health all shape the microbial world inside the vehicle. The immune system lives in that world continuously. A mission cannot sterilize life without harming life. It has to manage exposure and regulation and response. The body is carrying a private immune history into a shared mechanical habitat. Immune change is easy to overstate and easy to ignore. The careful middle is more useful. Spaceflight can shift immune signaling, wake latent viruses, and change inflammatory balance without turning every mission into a medical crisis. Microbes also travel with the crew. They live on skin, inside the gut, and on surfaces that are touched every day. Most are ordinary companions and not enemies. Still, a closed habitat changes the setting. Cleaning and airflow and humidity and stress and sleep and nutrition all shape the same small ecosystem. Immunity is one side of that conversation. For a crew far from Earth, the concern is margin. A small infection or slow healing problem is different when help is delayed and the habitat cannot pause. Radiation then adds a second environment the body cannot sense directly. The immune question belongs in this film because it shows how little of the body works alone. A closed spacecraft changes air, surfaces, stress, rest, diet, light, and medical distance at the same time. Radiation may add another pressure. NASA immune evidence and astronaut studies of latent virus reactivation do not say that every crew member becomes dangerously ill. They say regulation can shift. That is enough to matter. In a small crew, a mild infection or slow recovery can steal time and attention from other work. Health becomes shared infrastructure. The body is still defending itself, but it is doing so inside a narrower world. A spacecraft wall between a human cell and deep space looks reassuring because walls work against many familiar hazards. They stop wind, they hold air, they keep heat in. Radiation outside Earth's protective magnetic field and atmosphere is different. NASA's Hazard Space Radiation page describes ionizing radiation as an invisible hazard from galactic cosmic rays, solar particle events, and related solar activity. Earth protects the body before medicine begins. The planet is not only ground under the feet, its atmosphere and magnetic environment help shape the particle exposure that life receives. Low Earth orbit still has radiation risk, but deep space transit changes the shield and the distance from protection. The distinction must be careful. The ISS is not Earth normal, but it is not the same radiation setting as a Mars transit. Deep space removes a protection the body never had to notice. That is why radiation arrives after the microgravity story, not instead of it. It is a second environment laid over the first. Galactic cosmic rays are hard to wall off cleanly. NASA radiation materials explain that these high-energy particles can penetrate spacecraft materials and interact in complicated ways. More wall is not automatically a simple solution because mass, material behavior, mission architecture, and secondary particles all matter. A spacecraft wall is not the same as a sky. The risk categories are broader than cancer alone. NASA evidence reports discuss cancer risk, degenerative disease concerns such as cardiovascular disease and cataracts, central nervous system questions and tissue effects and dose and duration-dependent uncertainty. A calm script should not turn that into certainty where none exists. Exposure type and time and shielding and individual susceptibility and mission path all matter. A familiar wall can block rain. High-energy particles are not ordinary weather. Trying to stop them can be more like stopping rifle shots with layers that may splinter. The analogy is imperfect, but the lesson is useful. Shielding helps, yet the problem is not solved by saying thicker. Solar particle events add a different kind of risk. Galactic cosmic rays are a chronic background. Solar events can be sudden. NASA describes solar particle events and coronal mass ejections as hazards that require monitoring, forecasting, procedures, and protected shelter strategies. The danger is not theatrical because it is invisible. It becomes manageable only when planning gives it a voice. A storm shelter inside a spacecraft is a powerful image, a smaller protected place within the larger protected place. Crew members may need to move there when warnings arrive. Mission timing, sensor networks, vehicle design, and operations become part of radiation medicine. The body cannot feel the particles arriving in the way it feels heat or smoke. Deep space radiation therefore changes the central body question. The body is not only unloaded, it is exposed to a particle environment Earth normally reduces. If radiation defines deep space, the old Apollo evidence becomes both important and inadequate. Radiation also changes how shielding should be imagined. A habitat wall is necessary. Materials, water, food and equipment, and dedicated shelter areas can reduce exposure. NASA's radiation protection strategy includes monitoring and forecasting and operational decisions and vehicle design. The careful claim is not that shielding fails. The careful claim is that shielding is a trade space and not a magic wall. Galactic cosmic rays make the trade difficult because they are energetic and diverse. Some particles pass through materials. Some interactions can create secondary radiation. Adding mass may help in some ways while creating design burdens in others. A deep space vehicle cannot carry unlimited shielding because every kilogram affects launch, propulsion, structure, and mission architecture. Biology and physics and engineering meet in the wall. Solar events add urgency because they can change exposure over hours rather than months. A crew may need warnings, dosimeters, procedures, and a storm shelter made from the safest available mass. The hazard may be invisible, but the response has to be physical. Move here and wait here and measure this. Change the timeline. Radiation becomes a weather system that the body cannot sense directly. This is the deep space difference that low Earth orbit cannot fully supply. The ISS provides radiation evidence, but it does not reproduce the complete Mars transit environment. Deep space places a body outside more of Earth's natural protection, while the same body is already adapting to altered gravity. That combination is why radiation belongs in the middle of the body story, not as a separate fear category. The body has no sense organ for most of this hazard. A person can feel heat, pain, dizziness and thirst and fatigue. Galactic cosmic rays do not announce themselves that way. A solar particle event may be known through instruments and forecasts before it is known by the body. That means radiation protection depends heavily on trust in measurement. Dosimeters and models and alerts and procedures become extensions of human perception. Long-term risk is difficult because it is statistical and personal at the same time. A model can estimate population risk from dose and particle type. A mission still carries individual people with their own biology. Cancer risk, cardiovascular risk, cataracts, central nervous system concerns, and tissue effects must be discussed without pretending the future is exactly predictable. NASA's evidence reports use probabilities because the science demands probabilities. Radiation also interacts with mission architecture. Faster transit can reduce exposure time but may require different propulsion. More shielding can reduce some exposures but adds mass. Storm shelters can protect against acute events but not make the whole habitat equally safe. Surface habitats can use regolith or design choices for protection. The body again becomes part of engineering. The question is not only what particles do, but what the mission can practically do back. Radiation risk also arrives unevenly across mission phases. Transit, surface stay, solar cycle and vehicle design and shelter strategy and mission duration all shape the dose. A lunar mission and a Mars transit and a Mars surface stay are not the same radiation problem. That is why NASA separates acute radiation concerns from long-term cancer and degenerative disease risks. The word radiation is one word for several timescales of risk. Radiation is the part of deep space that does not feel like weather until instruments make it visible. A particle can cross tissue without sound or pain, and the consequence may belong to a later clock, a DNA repair error, a cataract risk, or a degenerative concern that cannot be read from the astronaut's face. Shielding helps, but it is not magic. More material can reduce some exposure and create other design problems. A storm shelter can protect against a solar event only if warning, location, and procedure line up. Galactic cosmic rays are harder because they are persistent and highly energetic. Protection is a mission architecture problem as much as a medical one. This is why low Earth orbit is only part of the answer. ISS crews teach us a great deal about microgravity, but Earth's shielding still changes the radiation question. Deep space asks the body to handle missing load and invisible ionization at the same time. The hardest part to picture is that radiation does not announce itself to the senses. A person can feel heat, pressure, hunger, pain, and motion. Galactic cosmic rays do not need to feel like anything to matter. NASA radiation guidance treats them through dose, particle type, duration, shielding, monitoring, and probability because the body has no simple warning bell for the exposure. That makes deep space unlike a dangerous landscape with visible cliffs. The cliff is statistical and cellular. It sits inside mission planning, inside material choices, and inside the calendar. The body carries the consequence whether or not the cabin feels calm. Apollo matters because it happened beyond low Earth orbit. Human bodies crossed deep space, entered lunar gravity, worked on the surface and returned. The mission record is not a myth or a decoration. It is the real boundary case in human exploration. But it was short. Days of exposure cannot answer what months or years do to bone and muscle and circulation and eyes and immunity and sleep and radiation risk. A useful image is touching cold water with a hand rather than swimming across a lake. The touch is real. It proves contact. It does not prove the body's response to a long crossing. Apollo opened the door without living beyond it. That distinction is essential because shallow arguments often use Apollo in one of two ways. One side treats it as proof that deep space health is solved. The other dismisses it because it was brief. The better scientific use is narrower and stronger. Apollo proves short-duration human deep space exposure and partial gravity surface work, while leaving long-duration physiology unanswered. The lunar surface also gave humans partial gravity, but not for long. 1/6 Earth gravity changed movement. Astronauts hopped, walked and fell and rose and worked and learned. Those records are useful for locomotion and operations. They are not a long-duration health dataset. Bone and muscle and eyes and circulation and sleep and immune regulation need time to show their deeper patterns. A short visit can show how a place feels. It cannot show what living there does to tissue. The moon gave a hint, not an answer. That boundary matters even more now because future lunar plans involve longer stays and repeated exposure. The old data cannot be stretched to cover a different duration simply because the location is similar. Lunar gravity should therefore be treated as a dose that humans briefly sampled. It should not be called safe or unsafe for long habitation from Apollo alone. The honest conclusion is more useful. The moon gave partial gravity to the body for too little time to settle the threshold. Apollo's radiation lesson is also bounded. Radiation risk depends on exposure time, shielding, solar weather, and mission path and chance. Apollo crews traveled during limited windows and for limited durations. That experience informs planning, but it cannot model cumulative Mars-class exposure or the consequences of an unlucky solar particle event during a much longer journey. Weather from one short trip cannot describe a whole season at sea. NASA's radiation risk framing keeps the same logic. Dose and timing matter. A brief crossing through deep space is not the same as months in transit, surface operations, and return under changing solar conditions. The past is evidence, but not a complete forecast. For duration, the strongest human evidence comes from a different place, the ISS, with its own boundary. Apollo is also a reminder that successful return is not the same as complete understanding. The missions were designed for a different era, different durations, different medical questions, and different risk acceptance. They produced invaluable records, but they did not carry the monitoring depth of modern ISS studies or the duration needed for slow tissue changes. Asking Apollo to answer every future health question is unfair to the evidence. The short duration matters for every system already named. Bone remodeling does not reveal its full mission pattern in a few days. Muscle loss begins quickly, but deep functional cost needs longer exposure. Cardiovascular and sensorimotor adaptation can be seen, but long transit and surface arrival are different. SANS, sleep, immunity, and chronic radiation risk all need a longer clock than Apollo supplied. The lunar gravity question is especially tempting to overread because the images are so powerful. Astronauts moved on the moon. They worked. They returned. But 1/6 gravity was sampled briefly during highly constrained missions by a small group with limited long-duration follow-up for the questions now being asked. A future stay of weeks or months would be a different biological experiment. Apollo should be honored as a boundary, not stretched into a solution. It shows that human bodies can cross deep space for short missions and work briefly on the moon. It does not show whether partial gravity protects the body over months. The distinction keeps the past useful instead of turning it into a false answer. There is one more Apollo boundary: sample size. A small group of highly selected people flew specific missions under specific conditions. Their success is extraordinary, but biology needs more than extraordinary examples to define long-term risk. Modern human research depends on repeated measures, larger datasets where possible, and imaging and biomarkers and follow-up. Apollo belongs to the evidence stack, but it cannot carry the stack alone. The same logic applies to radiation. Apollo did not encounter every possible solar condition. A mission that avoids a major event does not prove major events are unimportant. It proves that timing matters. Longer missions increase the span of exposure and the chance of encountering different conditions. That makes planning more dependent on forecasts, shelters, and conservative risk estimates. Apollo's value is sharper when it is kept narrow. The missions prove short human deep space flight. They give operational lessons for lunar movement and historical radiation context. They also stop before the slow questions become visible. The future problem begins where Apollo's duration ended. This boundary does not make Apollo small. It makes Apollo precise. Precision is more respectful than myth. The missions showed what humans could do in brief, deep space journeys with the technology and knowledge of their time. They did not measure the modern, long-duration questions now facing lunar bases, Mars transits, or repeated exposure. The best use of Apollo is to let it be the evidence it is, not the evidence people wish it were. Apollo is powerful evidence, but it is not long evidence. It proves that humans have crossed deep space, worked briefly on another surface and returned. It does not tell us what months of unloading and radiation would do before the hardest surface work begins. The same boundary applies to the moonwalks themselves. Moving in 1/6 gravity for hours taught engineers and crews something real about suits, dust, balance, and workload. It did not test months of sleep disruption and bone remodeling and fluid shift and immune change and radiation exposure before a landing. A brief success can be true without being a duration answer. That boundary protects Apollo from being misused. The missions widen the human map. They did not close the physiology file. The long record belongs mostly to low Earth orbit, and that record has its own boundary. Apollo should be respected most when it is used honestly. It proved that humans could leave low Earth orbit, cross cislunar space, work on another world, and come home. That is enormous evidence against pure speculation. It is not evidence for every future duration. The longest biological questions do not open fully in a few days. Bone remodeling needs time. Muscle change needs repeated missing work. Vision and fluid shifts need duration. Radiation risk depends on exposure and solar weather. Apollo gives a real doorway in the record. It does not give the long stay behind the doorway. The International Space Station gives time Apollo could not. Crews can live for months under continuous microgravity while researchers track exercise, imaging, blood and sleep, and vision and recovery. NASA's one-year mission and twin study material make the station an unusually rich human laboratory. Some changes only appear after daily life has become the experiment. Bone remodeling takes time, muscle maintenance takes time, cardiovascular adaptation, ocular findings, sleep patterns, immune markers, and recovery all need the long clock. The ISS provides that long clock better than Apollo ever could. That is why station evidence should never be dismissed. It is where the slow evidence became visible. Without it, deep space health discussions would lean far too heavily on models, analogues, and short flights. Low Earth orbit, though, still has an address near Earth. Near Earth is not Earth. The ISS is a risky and demanding and radiation-exposed microgravity environment, but it is also not Mars transit. Earth's magnetic environment and emergency return possibilities and resupply and communication and operational support and mission context differ from a vehicle months away. A ship can be offshore and still near the harbour. The water is real. The danger is real. But distance changes rescue, logistics, exposure and autonomy. NASA's Ridge Hazard Framework makes this explicit by grouping radiation and altered gravity and isolation and confinement and distance from Earth and hostile closed environments as linked exploration risks. The best evidence still has an address. That address tells researchers what the evidence can support and what it cannot. Mars-class missions combine the missing pieces. Transit brings microgravity or an artificial substitute. Deep space brings a different radiation field. Communication delay and limited medical options change every decision. Then the destination asks for work in partial gravity. No human dataset has lived that full package for mission duration. The hard question is not one risk by itself. A body can handle one stress differently than several together. Bone loss might be affected by exercise, nutrition, and partial gravity. Sleep might affect immune regulation and countermeasure adherence. Radiation risk might interact with cardiovascular or ocular concerns in ways still being modeled. A careful answer says plausible interaction, not invented certainty. The missing evidence is the combination. To fill pieces of that gap, researchers use analogues, and those analogues are powerful only when their limits are kept visible. The station's strength is continuity. Researchers can compare pre-flight, in-flight, and post-flight measures. They can track exercise and diet and sleep and vision and blood markers and cardiovascular responses and muscle and bone and recovery. The twins study and one-year mission material are powerful because they show integrated monitoring across time. They are not Mars replicas, but they show how many systems can change together during long spaceflight. The station also lets countermeasures mature. Exercise devices, nutrition plans, lighting systems, and medical imaging and procedures and scheduling practices have all improved through repeated missions. That makes ISS evidence practical, not merely descriptive. It shows how bodies respond and how interventions perform when people actually live with them. Yet the station remains close enough to Earth to change the stakes. Emergency return is difficult but imaginable. Resupply exists. Communication is nearly immediate. Radiation is serious but shaped by low Earth orbit. Psychological and logistical realities differ from a vehicle months away. These differences do not make station research weak, they define its boundary. The Mars question is therefore integrative. What happens when the long clock of the ISS meets the radiation setting of deep space, the autonomy of distance, the closed habitat stress, and partial gravity at the destination? No current human evidence source carries that full stack. The station gives the best foundation, but the foundation is not the completed building. The ISS also provides a culture of continuous countermeasure use. Astronauts exercise, track health, manage schedules, and live inside a support system built over decades. That support system is part of the evidence. It shows that human bodies in microgravity are not simply left alone to decline, they are actively managed. Deep space missions inherit that lesson, but they must carry it farther with fewer rescue options. One-year mission and twin study results are sometimes tempting to oversell because they are vivid. They show molecular, physiological, and recovery changes across an unusually rich comparison. But they still occur in low Earth orbit with particular individuals under intense monitoring. Their value is not direct proof of Mars outcomes. Their value is showing how integrated and measurable the body's response can be. The station's boundary is also about time. 6 months or a year is long by spaceflight standards. But exploration missions can include transit, surface stay, and return as separate phases. The body may move from microgravity to partial gravity and back again, while radiation and workload change around it. The station also teaches humility about individual variation. Astronauts do not all respond in identical ways. Some changes are more pronounced in one person than another. Recovery patterns differ, countermeasure responses differ. Deep space planning has to carry that variability because a small crew cannot average away an outlier. The ISS lets researchers see variation under long microgravity. It does not yet show how that variation behaves under the full deep space stack. The station is the best human laboratory we have for long microgravity exposure. It lets researchers watch bodies change, countermeasures work, and recovery begin. That is an extraordinary base of knowledge. This does not weaken the station record. It makes the record more valuable when it is used correctly. ISS studies show what the body does under long microgravity with strong monitoring and countermeasures. They give mission designers the best human baseline available. The mistake would be pretending that baseline already includes the missing deep space pieces, but the station is not a Mars transfer vehicle, a lunar base, or a deep space storm shelter. It sits close enough to Earth that rescue and supply and shielding and daily operations are different. Its evidence is essential because it is strong. Its evidence is limited because it is local. The station also gives something easy to overlook: repeated measurement. Crews can be tested before flight, during flight, and after return. Equipment can be improved, countermeasures can be changed. The one-year mission and twin study materials are useful in that spirit. They show integrated monitoring across a living person, not a perfect Mars rehearsal. That distinction protects the evidence. The ISS tells us that the human body can be studied in space with depth and patience. It also tells us that the answer still depends on where the body is, how far help is, and what radiation environment surrounds the vehicle. A bed rest volunteer lying slightly head down may look far from deep space, but the study has a purpose. Head down bed rest reduces ordinary loading and can shift fluid toward the head. NASA and other research groups use it to study pieces of the microgravity problem: bone, muscle, and cardiovascular regulation, and fluid shift and exercise countermeasures and recovery. It is a wind tunnel for the body and not the whole sky. The distinction matters. A model can be useful without being the thing itself. Bed rest still happens under Earth gravity. The body is not in a spacecraft. Radiation, confinement, operational workload, suit tasks, and partial gravity are absent or simulated only in pieces. But isolation of a mechanism is exactly why the model helps. When an analog is treated as fake, useful evidence is lost. When it is treated as equivalent, certainty is invented. The scientific value lives between those errors. Parabolic flight gives another kind of clue. Aircraft arcs can create brief periods of microgravity, lunar-like gravity, or Martian-like gravity. For seconds, a body can feel a different load. Researchers can study immediate movement and perception and fluid response or equipment use. But seconds are not seasons. A plane can make a body light for a moment. A moment cannot show bone remodeling across months, immune shifts under a closed mission, chronic radiation exposure, or long-duration partial gravity health. The same event can be valuable and insufficient. It answers short questions with real bodies. This is especially important for partial gravity. Quick tests can show how movement changes. They cannot decide whether 1/6 or 3/8 gravity protects the skeleton, eyes, heart, and immune system over a mission. The body can reveal a clue in seconds, but not the whole story. Radiation research has its own analog problem. Laboratories and accelerator facilities can study particles, dose, tissue effects, models, and shielding behavior under controlled conditions. NASA radiation risk models depend on such work because deep space radiation cannot be reproduced perfectly inside a human mission before the mission exists. A lab can aim a known beam at a known sample. Deep space sends mixed particles over time inside a spacecraft during changing solar conditions, around living people with other stresses. Simulation helps build the map. It is not the terrain. Analogs therefore point toward the central missing answer instead of replacing it. Bed rest, parabolic flight, radiation simulation and isolation studies, and ISS research each illuminate a piece. The closer the question gets to Mars, the harder it is to copy on Earth. The biggest missing piece is gravity dose. Analogs are often where good science looks least cinematic. A person lying in bed, a subject inside a centrifuge, a participant in an isolation habitat, a tissue sample exposed in a lab, or a few seconds of altered gravity in an aircraft can seem small beside a Mars mission. But controlled smallness is the point. It lets researchers ask one question without the whole mission interfering. Bed rest can separate unloading from launch, docking, radiation, and surface work. Parabolic flight can isolate immediate gravity response. Isolation studies can test workload and confinement in routine and team stress. Radiation facilities can test particle effects and shielding behavior. Each tool removes some reality to make one part measurable. That is not a flaw if the missing reality is remembered. The danger is using analogs as rhetorical weapons. They are not fake because they are incomplete. They are not decisive because they are controlled. They are bridges between mechanisms and missions. NASA's evidence roadmap depends on many such bridges because waiting for perfect Mars evidence before studying physiology would be irresponsible. For the body, analogs create humility. Every model has a shape. A bed rest study can tell a great deal about unloading and fluid shift, but little about dust, suits, radiation, and partial gravity work. A radiation model can inform risk without reproducing a whole life inside a spacecraft. These boundaries are not obstacles to the story. They are the reason the final unknown remains honest. A good analog also helps test countermeasures before lives depend on them. Bed rest studies can compare exercise protocols. Isolation missions can test schedules and team procedures. Radiation experiments can refine shielding choices and risk models. Parabolic flights can reveal immediate movement problems with equipment. These studies are not glamorous, but they reduce ignorance in specific places. The body often needs this piece-by-piece approach because the whole mission cannot be ethically or practically tested first. Researchers cannot send people on a Mars duration exposure simply to see what breaks. They build evidence from safer fragments, then update models as real missions add data. That is how cautious science moves toward dangerous environments. The final answer must therefore respect fragments. A fragment can be true and incomplete. Head-down tilt can reveal fluid shift mechanisms. It cannot reveal dust inside a suit. A radiation beam can test cellular damage. It cannot reproduce a year of stress, sleep disruption, and exercise adherence. Each fragment earns trust by saying exactly what part of the body problem it represents. Analog evidence also improves the questions asked during real missions. If bed rest suggests a fluid shift mechanism, eye monitoring can be designed more carefully. If parabolic flight shows movement problems, surface tools can be changed. If radiation models highlight a material trade-off, habitat layout can shift. The point is not to replace the real mission. The point is to arrive at the real mission less ignorant. Analogues are useful because they let one piece of the problem be held still long enough to study. Bed rest can isolate unloading. Radiation facilities can test dose and shielding. Parabolic flights can show brief gravity transitions. A good analog is like a clean instrument. It does not pretend to be the whole orchestra. It lets researchers hear one line clearly. Bed rest lets unloading speak. A radiation beam lets a dose question speak. Isolation studies let schedule and stress speak. The hard part is remembering that real missions play all the lines together. None of those settings becomes a full mission. Their value is in the narrowness. They explain mechanisms that would be hard to separate in flight. Then mission designers have to put the pieces back together without pretending the copy is the destination. A good analog is a disciplined compromise. It does not pretend to be Mars. It isolates one piece of the question so that researchers can ask it cleanly. Head-down bed rest can press on unloading and fluid shift. Parabolic flight can give seconds of different gravity. A radiation lab can expose tissue or models to known particles. Each tool removes noise. Each tool also removes parts of the real mission. That is not a weakness if we name it. It is how science works when the full experiment is too costly, too risky, or not yet possible. The model is a bridge, not a destination. Gravity is not only on or off. The Moon offers about 1/6 of Earth's pull, and Mars offers about 3/8. Those numbers are not zero, and they are not Earth. Partial gravity research treats gravity as a dose. How much force, and for how long, and in what pattern, and with what biological response. The familiar image is a dimmer switch between dark and bright. The body may need a certain level for certain tissues, and it may need that level for enough hours per day or enough months in a row. A weak gravity field may help load the legs, shape movement, and improve fluid distribution compared with 0 G. But help is not the same as sufficiency. The number on the surface may decide the mission inside the body. That is why partial gravity is the landing point of the whole physiology story. There may not be one gravity answer for the whole body. Bone, muscle, circulation and balance, and eyes and sleep and immune regulation may not share the same threshold. Mars gravity might help walking more than it protects bone. Lunar gravity might change fluid distribution without fully restoring Earth-like pressure patterns. A level that supports one function may leave another system underloaded. Different tissues may need different minimum doses. A gravity level that helps walking may still leave bone remodeling short of Earth demand. A schedule that protects sleep will not solve radiation. A countermeasure that protects muscle may not solve eye pressure. The body is one person, but the thresholds may not line up neatly. Partial gravity may be medicine with an unknown dose. That is a more interesting answer than either optimism or doom, because it names the experiment still missing. The unanswered part is time. Apollo gave days, parabolic flight gives seconds, bed rest gives an Earth analog, the ISS gives long microgravity in low Earth orbit. None of those gives months of human life under lunar or Martian gravity, while also carrying deep space radiation and mission autonomy. A load can feel fine for a day and still reshape the body over months. The same is true in reverse. A partial load may be enough for one period and insufficient for another. Human evidence has not lived long enough in partial gravity to draw the line with confidence. Scientists know mechanisms. They can model, infer, test pieces, and design countermeasures. That is not ignorance. It is an evidence boundary. The Moon and Mars are not only destinations, They are unfinished experiments in how much Earth the body needs back. The phrase gravity dose response may sound distant, but it asks one of the most practical questions in human exploration. How much loading does bone require? How often does muscle need meaningful resistance? How much downward pull helps fluid distribution? What level supports balance without creating new movement problems? How long each day does the body need the signal? The Moon and Mars offer different answers before anyone knows which answer is enough. Mars gravity may protect some systems substantially. Lunar gravity may help while leaving larger gaps. Artificial gravity or exercise may have to supplement both. The evidence does not yet allow one confident line, and a single line is what mission design would love to have. This unknown also changes mission design. If partial gravity is enough for many systems, long surface stays become more biologically plausible. If it is not enough, missions need stronger countermeasures and shorter stays, and artificial gravity strategies or different recovery plans. The question is not philosophical. It changes mass and architecture and schedules and medical equipment and risk acceptance. The body is the experiment that cannot be fully replaced by machines on Earth. Researchers can infer from ISS, Apollo, analogues and models, but the duration under partial gravity has not been lived. That is why the Moon and Mars are scientific environments as much as destinations. They do not simply wait for arrival. They test whether a weaker version of Earth is still enough Earth. Partial gravity also raises the question of pattern. Is continuous weak gravity better than short periods of stronger artificial gravity? Does the body need load spread throughout the day, or can intense sessions preserve enough tissue? Does walking in Mars gravity train balance and circulation differently from running on a harness in microgravity? These are not small details. They decide what hardware, schedules, and surface plans make sense. The Moon and Mars may also differ in operational reality. Lunar gravity is weaker, but the Moon is closer, with shorter communication delays and different mission durations. Mars gravity is stronger, but the mission is farther and longer and more autonomous. A biological dose cannot be separated from the mission that delivers it. A weaker field near Earth may be easier to manage than a stronger field months away or not, depending on the risk being considered. This is where the body as evidence frame becomes most useful. Instead of arguing from hope or fear, future missions can measure what partial gravity does to real tissues over real time. Bone scans, muscle function and cardiovascular tests and balance measures and ocular exams and sleep data and immune markers and radiation records can turn a surface stay into a health experiment. Until that happens and the threshold remains open, future measurements may not deliver one dramatic answer. They may show that Mars gravity is enough for certain tasks and insufficient for certain tissues, or that lunar gravity requires heavier countermeasures, or that intermittent artificial gravity changes one risk while leaving another. That would still be progress. The body rarely answers with a slogan. It answers with thresholds and durations and exceptions and trade-offs. Partial gravity is the question the body has not yet answered for us. The Moon and Mars give more than zero, but a number on a chart is not a long biological test. Bone, muscle and circulation and vision and balance may each draw the threshold in a different place. A surface habitat would turn this from theory into routine. Every step, sleep period, exercise session and repair would become part of the gravity dose. The body would not receive one clean number. It would receive a pattern of load and rest across days. That pattern may matter as much as the headline fraction of Earth gravity. That is why the safest conclusion is an open one. Lunar or Martian gravity may help. It may help some systems more than others. Until long-duration evidence exists, the dose that keeps a human body stable remains a mission-defining unknown. The reason this question has so much weight is that partial gravity sounds comforting. The Moon has gravity, Mars has more. A boot can press into dust, a person can fall. Tools have weight. None of that proves that cells receive enough of the right signal for long enough. Bone may need one pattern of loading, muscle may need another, fluid distribution may respond to posture, pressure, and time in ways that are not obvious from a footprint. The gravity dose response question turns a planet into a medical condition. The surface is not only scenery, it is a treatment whose dose has not been tested. The exercise machine returns near the end because it now means more. It is no longer a simple answer to muscle loss. It is one piece of a spacecraft arguing with the body. Resistive exercise, treadmill harnesses, cycle work and loading devices, and scheduled training all try to replace a missing world. NASA HRP muscle and bone and cardiovascular evidence supports countermeasures because tissue listens to demand. If the world stops making a person work, a machine must make work. The machine can be powerful, it can preserve strength, reduce loss and support cardiovascular conditioning and help routine and give the crew a daily structure. But it is not Earth, it is an artificial hill inside a room. That is the right balance. Countermeasures are not cosmetic, they are not magic. They buy time by giving body systems enough signal to stay closer to operating range. Operations become medicine in deep space. Exercise, hydration, lighting, and sleep protection and radiation shelter practice, and medical monitoring and hygiene and workload design all become health protection. NASA's integrated human research approach treats the mission as a health system because no single countermeasure carries the whole body. A spacecraft has to carry a smaller version of hospital logic. It needs routines, tools, measurements and prevention and triage and backup plans. The vehicle becomes a thin, moving clinic, and every hour or kilogram has to earn its place. This can sound like a list if handled badly, but the body connection is direct. Nutrition supports bone and muscle. Lighting supports circadian rhythm. Monitoring catches change early. Shielding reduces exposure. Procedures turn invisible hazards into decisions. The cure is not one device, it is a discipline. Artificial gravity remains tempting because it aims at the root. Instead of replacing many separate effects, give the body back part of the condition they came from. Rotating habitats, centrifuges, and other designs try to create load through motion. Artificial gravity literature explores the promise and the difficulty together. The obvious answer is still an unfinished machine. Useful rotation depends on size, speed, comfort and motion sickness, and engineering mass and docking and mission design, and whether intermittent exposure is enough. A short radius centrifuge might help some systems without becoming a full habitat. A large rotating structure might be more comfortable, but harder to build and fly. The cleanest countermeasure would be gravity returned. The hard part is returning it in a way a mission can carry. With all countermeasures named, the title can be answered without pretending the missing evidence has already been solved. Countermeasures also have to compete with human limits. An exercise plan can fail when the crew is exhausted. A nutrition plan can fail when appetite and storage fight the menu. A storm shelter works only if warning and movement happen in time. The plan has to survive the day, not only the document. That makes monitoring central. Blood tests, imaging, wearable sensors and strength measures and vision exams and sleep data and radiation dosimetry and functional tests can show whether the countermeasure suite is working. Deep missions need this feedback because Earth-based medical intuition may lag behind the body's actual state. A number caught early can become an adjustment. A number missed can become lost margin. Artificial gravity remains attractive because it could reduce the need to imitate Earth piece by piece. But it also introduces its own body questions. Rotation can create unusual sensory cues. Short radius systems may be uncomfortable or limited. Longer radius designs demand engineering scale. Intermittent exposure may help some tissues while leaving others uncertain. Giving gravity back is not one decision, it is a design program. The calm conclusion is that countermeasures buy mission time by narrowing the gap between space and the body's needs. They do not abolish the gap. Their success depends on dose, adherence, integration, and the environment still missing. A spacecraft can argue with biology. It cannot win by pretending biology is optional. Nutrition deserves a calmer place in the countermeasure story. Food is not only calories, it supports bone, muscle, immune function and mood and gut health and recovery. Storage stability and appetite and menu fatigue and micronutrients and hydration and preparation all matter when resupply is limited. A perfect exercise plan can be weakened by poor nutrition, and a good diet can be weakened by stress and sleep loss or workload. Medical autonomy is another countermeasure. A distant crew needs the ability to examine, decide, and treat with limited help. That means training and tools and protocols and decision support and conservative design. The more the body becomes a mission system, the more medical capability becomes part of vehicle capability. A spacecraft that cannot assess its crew is flying partly blind. Countermeasures finally depend on honesty about uncertainty. If lunar gravity turns out to be insufficient for a key system, the plan must be able to adapt. If Mars gravity helps more than expected, countermeasure schedules may change. If radiation exposure exceeds assumptions, operations must respond. Buying time is not one purchase made before launch. It is continuous negotiation with the body. The strongest countermeasure suite will probably be boring in the best way. It will be repeated, measured, adjusted, and protected from schedule erosion. It will combine machines with food and light and sleep and shielding and medical checks and crew habits. Its strength will come from rhythm. Countermeasures are not cosmetic. They are how a spacecraft gives the body back pieces of the world it lost. Exercise can replace some loading. Lighting can replace some daylight. Shielding can reduce some particle exposure. Monitoring can catch some drift before it becomes danger. The best designs will also be humble. They will assume that equipment breaks, people get tired, schedules slip, and bodies respond differently. A countermeasure plan that works only under perfect conditions is not a deep space plan. The system has to remain useful on the day when the crew is busy and sore and behind schedule and still needs to train. The honest limit is that each substitute has to be performed by the same tired, adapting body it is meant to protect. Countermeasures buy time and reduce risk. They do not erase the question of how much gravity and shielding the mission still needs. That is why countermeasures should be treated with respect and suspicion at the same time. They are not cosmetic add-ons. They are the reason long missions can be planned at all. Exercise hardware, nutrition, lighting, schedules, monitoring, shelter procedures, and medical autonomy all push back against the environment. Yet every one of them depends on design, time, compliance, equipment health, and individual response. A countermeasure is a promise the mission has to keep every day. If the machine breaks, the schedule slips, or fatigue builds, biology notices. The spacecraft is not only carrying medicine, it has to practice it. A spacecraft carries engines, batteries, seals and computers and tanks and filters and valves and software. Each has limits. The most complex component is the one breathing inside it. NASA's integrated human system risk framing treats the crew body as part of the mission system because bone and muscle and circulation and balance and eyes and sleep and immunity and radiation exposure all set margins. This is not a generic statement that humans are fragile, it is more specific. The body is both payload and life support component. It must operate the vehicle while the vehicle tries to keep it within range. If the skeleton loses load, if circulation adapts to the wrong pressure map, if vision changes and if fatigue erodes routine, and if immune regulation shifts and if radiation exposure accumulates and the mission margin changes, the body is not a passenger in the problem. It is the problem's center. The answer is known in layers. ISS data shows long-duration microgravity effects and countermeasure experience. NASA HRP reports map risks across bone, muscle, cardiovascular and sensoromotor, and ocular and sleep and immune and radiation and behavioral health domains. Apollo proves short human deep space exposure, bed rest and parabolic flight and radiation simulation and other analogues isolate mechanisms. Partial gravity research frames the missing dose question. That is a lot of knowledge, and it is real. The body changes quickly in fluid and orientation. Tissue changes more slowly. Work capacity changes through strength, balance and standing tolerance, and vision and fatigue and immunity and radiation risk. The evidence is not empty. It is incomplete in the places that matter most. But a map can show mountains, rivers and weather without knowing the exact route tomorrow. Deep space combines risks in a way humans have not lived through for long. Many measurements are clear around a blank center. The honest answer is stronger than a simple one. The final question is not whether space changes the body. It does. The question is how much of Earth the body needs back. Lunar gravity may give part of the load. Martian gravity may give more. Exercise, nutrition, monitoring and sleep protection and shielding and operations may buy time. None of that yet proves the long duration threshold. A human body standing under a weaker sky is carrying Earth-made biology into a place that only partly gives Earth back. Cells, bones, vessels and eyes and clocks and immune signals are all asking whether the dose is enough. Engines may reach deep space. Biology decides how long a person can remain useful there. Deep space may be crossed by machines, but it has to be survived by cells. Floating was never the whole story. It was the first visible clue. Thinking of the body as a spacecraft system changes the engineering picture. A battery can be oversized, and a filter can be swapped. The body is harder. It repairs itself and hides trouble, but it also carries fatigue and immune history and injury risk and emotional stress. It is resilient without being replaceable. That dual nature is what makes human spaceflight so difficult. Adaptation can help a person live in microgravity while reducing readiness for gravity. A closed habitat can preserve air while concentrating stress. Shielding can reduce radiation while adding mass. Every solution touches another constraint. The evidence layers, therefore, do not lead to a neat yes or no. They lead to an operating range. Keep bone within range. Keep muscle within range. Keep circulation ready enough. Keep balance trainable. Protect eyes. Protect sleep. Watch immune regulation. Reduce radiation. Preserve routine. Know when the evidence is direct and when it is inferred. Human viability is not a single switch. That is the adult answer to the title. Deep space would not simply hurt the body. It would ask the body to become compatible with an environment that is missing several Earth conditions at once. The great unresolved question is not whether humans can cross the distance. It is whether, over mission time, the body can be kept close enough to Earth inside. The body system view also explains why deep space health cannot be reduced to courage. Courage may decide to go. It cannot make bone ignore unloading, make cosmic rays easier to shield, make sleep unnecessary, or make partial gravity sufficient by desire. The body has its own physics and chemistry. A good mission respects that without becoming timid. It also avoids doom. Bodies are adaptive, trainable, monitorable, and often surprisingly resilient. Astronauts have lived in orbit and returned and recovered and taught researchers an enormous amount. Countermeasures have improved, medical monitoring has improved, radiation models and vehicle design continue to improve. The honest story is not that humans cannot go. It is that going requires carrying the body problem as seriously as propulsion. That seriousness may be the real lesson. Deep space is often imagined as distance, but for a human being it is also subtraction. Less load, less shielding, and less immediate help, and less natural timing, and less familiar direction. The spacecraft gives some of that back. Countermeasures give more back. The Moon and Mars may return part of gravity. The unresolved question is whether the total is enough. The body finally teaches a different meaning of exploration. Leaving Earth is not only crossing distance, it is negotiating with the conditions that made human bodies ordinary in the first place. Gravity, shielding, time cues, microbial surroundings, and immediate help are so normal that they disappear from thought. Deep space makes them visible by taking them away. The body becomes the instrument that tells us what Earth was doing all along. In the end, the body has to be treated as part of the spacecraft because it is one of the mission's working systems. It carries oxygen, pressure and repair, and sensing and memory and movement and decision-making inside living tissue. Unlike a filter or battery, it cannot be swapped when the margin gets thin. This view also changes the meaning of risk. The danger is not only one dramatic failure, it is the slow narrowing of usable margin across many ordinary systems. A little less strength, a little less sleep, a little less visual clarity, and a little more radiation uncertainty can meet on the same workday. That meeting is where mission design has to be honest. That makes the final question practical rather than philosophical. Deep space does not have to destroy the body to challenge it. It only has to keep changing the conditions the body depends on while asking that body to keep doing precise work. Seen this way, the body is not a weak passenger embarrassing a strong machine. It is the reason the machine exists. Rockets can cross distance only if the living system inside them remains able to think, see, sleep, repair, move and decide. NASA human system risk language may sound abstract, but the meaning is intimate. A mission margin can live in a femur, a retina, a blood pressure reflex, a sleep cycle, or an immune signal. Deep space asks engineering to protect biology from an environment that biology did not evolve to read. The final spacecraft system is the one with a pulse. Return to the first image now. A human body floating beyond Earth. It no longer looks like a simple picture of freedom. It looks like a measurement. The feet are not pressing into a floor. The leg bones and spine are not receiving their old signals. The muscles that once held posture all day have lost much of their ordinary work. Fluid has shifted toward the head. The heart and blood vessels have learned a pressure map that may not serve them when gravity returns. The balance system has made a new bargain with vision and touch. The eyes may show changes that reach deeper than vision alone, because the eye is part of the head's fluid and pressure world. Sleep is no longer a soft side issue. It is timing, attention and stress and immune regulation and the daily discipline that keeps countermeasures working. Immunity is not a wall, but a conversation, and spaceflight can change the tone of that conversation. Then deep space adds the second environment. Beyond Earth's full shield, radiation is not visible, not felt, and not solved by confidence. Galactic cosmic rays and solar particle events, and shielding limits, and monitoring and storm shelters, and long-term risk models become part of the body's story. The spacecraft protects the crew, but it cannot become a planet. The evidence is strong in layers. The ISS gives the long microgravity record. NASA's Human Research Program and evidence reports map the major body systems. Apollo proves that humans briefly crossed deep space and worked in lunar gravity. Bed rest, parabolic flight, radiation simulation, and other analogues let researchers isolate mechanisms that no single mission can show alone. But the complete deep space answer is still missing. Humans have not lived for mission-length durations under deep space radiation plus lunar or Martian partial gravity. The Moon gives about 1/6 Earth gravity. Mars gives about 3/8. Those numbers are not nothing, and they are not Earth. The unanswered line is whether they are enough, with countermeasures, to hold the body inside viable limits. So what would deep space do to the human body? It would not transform it in one dramatic instant. It would ask it to adapt, system by system, to missing load and altered pressure and changed orientation and disrupted timing and immune stress and invisible radiation. It would make the body part of the spacecraft's engineering problem. The final frontier here is not bravery, it is dose. How much gravity, how much shielding, how much routine, how much time before adaptation becomes cost. That is why the final uncertainty is not a failure of knowledge. It is the next measurement waiting for humans to make carefully. We can name the systems that change. We can name the environments that drive them. We can design countermeasures that reduce the cost. What we cannot honestly do yet is pretend that lunar gravity, Martian gravity, and deep space shielding have already been tested for the durations future missions imply. The body will have to answer that in time and under weaker gravity and farther from Earth's shield. With every system carrying the record, the next missions will not settle that by confidence. They will settle it by measurement, bone scans, strength tests, pressure records and vision exams, and sleep logs and immune markers and radiation dosimetry and the daily evidence of whether crews can keep working under weaker gravity. The answer will come from bodies living the question longer than Apollo and farther than the station and more completely than any analog. A body can leave Earth inside a machine, it cannot leave Earth biology behind,